panel discussion on manufacturing with machine vision solutions and applications powered by Cognite. I request Mr. Shirish Kulkarni to moderate this session. So thank you very much for accepting our request.
Thanks. I think we heard interesting aspects of how Cognite's products and use cases are getting rolled out while through Safalji, and we have Alok deep diving into data, and we will broach more onto those aspects also. But first and foremost, a generic query that everybody has is how popular is machine vision? How we talk about robots having this kind of a vision, and we are able to now see robots doing things that the humans are. So one question for Mr. Safal is that all this product line that you have, all the way that you are seeing application in reality, which industry, type of industry and application that you see more popularity? We talked about the packaging side, right? We spoke also about healthcare. But where do you see things moving faster, more getting adopted without much of resilience? Because it's complex, right? I mean, it is also coming on the way where we see it is kind of, we'll talk more about that. Is it getting seen as a threat also? But firstly, let's talk about where is it more popular or getting more adopted for Mr. Safar.
Okay. So, Shirish sir, basically, if we talk about global markets and if we talk about India, we are at a very nascent stage as far as automation is concerned in India. But yes, the automotive industry is the one who is pretty matured in terms of using machine vision, because one is the security, second is the impact of faulty part going into the market and the recall which they have to do. So automotive is definitely at a very respectable stage where machine vision is installed at most of the application points. And if we talk about other markets which are compliance related markets, such as pharma, such as there are other industries which are now coming up with the regulation where we talk about liquor traceability. So liquor in one specific state is cheaper, and one specific state it is expensive. Say for example, Delhi and UP. UP is expensive and Delhi is cheaper, and it's just a border, I mean touching two regions each other. So what happens is the liquor gets transferred from this state to that state and sold there. It was a huge loss to government. So wherever compliance is there the traceability is obviously, or machine vision is obviously very important, playing an important role. But other markets like packaging, food, FMCG, those are also now picking up where people have really understood the importance of machine vision.
In continuation to that, we saw a film where this food products moving on the conveyor belt, and the sizing of that, and you were able to get how many products are actually packaged. So is it something that has come to India also? Is it something that is a reality?
Yes. In India, I mean, all the top food and FMCG accounts, they are definitely into machine vision. They are flooded with machine vision. And then, like, so companies like P&G, Nestle, Unilever, they are almost there at the automation. And the second level of companies who are competing with them, who are not as big as them or global, but Indian companies, they are also now implementing, looking at the kind of productivity improvement, and the scrap or false rejection of the product has reduced drastically.
Amazing. And there was always a talk about product track and trace, right? I mean, you talk about product genealogy where everything that it gets incepted with a raw material also getting traced. You have barcodes across the life cycle, and at times those are not readable. I think there was one example where you saw, those characters are getting read. So how complex? I mean, there is a huge data involved here, right? I mean, across the conveyor belt or across the value chain, the system seems to be very complex.
Yeah, it's not that complex, but it's definitely a combination of two or three technologies. So one critical part is the barcode printing. Second is the alphanumeric characters printed by a technology which is, so there are few technologies who are very, very, what I say, are very good. Say, for example, laser printing is a very precise printing. But if we talk about some printing technologies like inkjet, it's very, very unpredictable depending on what the gap between the substrate is, how the equipment is working. And then the third part comes in, which is vision, which becomes critical. So it's definitely a combination of two or three components, but going forward, and if we maintain the industry standards and go by the guide, then it is not as complex as we think currently.
And I was going through the stepped approach that you have about guide, inspect, gauge, and identify. It's kind of a very generic and comprehensive approach, right?
Yeah. So any inspection which you are looking at related to machine vision will fall typically under these four categories. So that's where we first identify that what product line will be applicable in this case, what is the application, and then we go to optimize the solution accordingly.
Right. There is always a notion, and now I'm going to ask it from the kind of way that we see resistances for any manufacturer or any kind of a vertical, that you will see that my data has to be with me. I will not let it go beyond a firewall, and we will get to Alok later about the data aspects. But there is a fear that I don't want to put it in a SaaS. I don't want to put it in a cloud. Do you see that trend still happening, or it's kind of slowly tapering off?
Yeah, it is tapering off. Most of the people are interested in having the data now. And so what we spoke majorly was about the smart camera solutions. So there are certain solutions which are also a PC-based solutions where the images are grabbed and those are dumped into the software, and then software does the processing. So there are few industries where they have resistance putting the data, putting the PC on the line. But as far as the smart camera solutions are concerned, we are not taking that data outside. So with a camera, it is getting dumped into their own database. So that's not a problem for them.
Wonderful, wonderful. And a kind of a logical question about deep learning, as we want to make this system self-learning, right? I mean, we will train them, they will train themselves, and they will become more intelligent, so that something rejected now wrongly as a mistake of the system or error of the system does not happen in future. So that the systems are self-learning.
Yeah. So no, these systems for now it is not self-learning, but then the current trend or current expectations from the market giants is what they need is that they need some app installed on their phone, cell phone, and say for example on the line, if product A is getting inspected and suddenly there is a changeover, then what industry expectations are that after this changeover 10 products should be rejected because it's a different product, and I should get a message trigger whether there is a changeover, and if I say yes, then it continues with the other batch, or then it stops the line there. So that is the kind of next level expectation where this machine vision or deep learning systems will definitely come up with a self-learning capability in future.
Super. So we'll come back to you about how you see a future for Cognex and the use cases around it. So we'll come back to you. I'll now turn myself in Aloka about the data, right? I mean, we spoke about data being very critical, and it's a complex set of data. You have a stream of data coming, videos coming, age detection, and I showed that diagram, which was very complex. So are these where technology gets pushed by vision, but to have large data, big data, complex data, and that's where you see also technology requiring to analyze it and interpret it gets more and more challenging. Is that the way that you see it?
Yeah. So I'll answer this in two. One, to continue the discussion, the faults. So the faults in the product, and then the second on the vision in this space of where you have to exchange data. So the faults. Now imagine the fault in the card industry. So just a hacked card. So AI is used today to detect these kind of things. But imagine if AI does a mistake. So the company gets calls from the real user who was not hacked. No, I'm using my card. I'm in a different country. That's it. AI detected that your card was misused in a different country. This causes a lot of, say, support calls, a lot of cost to the card company, the bank, and the whole system. So AI currently, to do these kind of things, tuning the AI and making it more smart, the card companies have to exchange data with each other. And this is a huge topic. MasterCard, Visa, and now the UPI framework, and everybody is looking into these topics, how much exchange can be achieved. Because whenever you go to such data exchanges, it's about the individual. Any data linked. So if you're linking it to a product, as on a machine line, it's sensitive because it's about, say, it's about the integrity of the company. So if P&G data as how many defective parts it has made, or how many parts are 99% good rather than 100% good, it's sensitive data. So it's very critical for the company, P&G. But when it comes to any human related data, that becomes critical not only for the company, but also for the individual. So bringing that part on the faults, and then coming back to the question on the machine vision related things. So there is a lot of research which is happening today, and I'll just pick this fertility clinics. And in India also, this is getting popular. In Europe, it's so popular, as in there's a lot of inclination towards going for fertility clinics. Italy's population is reducing. So there's a very different orientation on how this specifically this fertility business is seen. And we were in touch with a company which has got huge funding on improving on how these artificial births are controlled. The biggest problem they had was, now we have all these CT scans. It's so difficult for them to consume those scans to train an AI model, because this is all sensitive data and this relates to one individual. So, and this is just one example. There are many such cases where this data is owned by this company, which is providing this fertility services. But this is a small company in Italy. If you want to do the machine learning case or an AI case, you need data of 1 million such cases. And that one small company will not have this. So you have to combine data from something happening in Italy, Spain, and so on. Everywhere there are different laws. The company which I'm talking about, they are based in Poland. So they have a different, so many other fertility clinics. And I was talking to the AI company, and the company is like, there are tons of paperwork. So you get consent, of course. With consent, you can manage. But then once you get consent, it's your problem. If the data is hacked in any way, you will be liable. So that's even a bigger problem for that agency. And so,
talking about this, strong use case where now in the healthcare space, you would see that remote assessment of disease, leveraging visual signals, and the doctor being remote as far as detection is concerned. So you don't have a look and feel, right? I mean, you don't have physical presence. So how that is happening and how data becomes critical. The second part is now going to the surgery, where, I mean, no mistake is forgiven, right? There you are talking about the lives. So
yeah,
is that data system and all this technology that reliable now?
it is used today. If you go to an operation with, you have three holes in the tummy, and then they insert these devices. They are all AI assisted, or I would not say if they call it AI assisted, but they are all robotic assisted operations. So in each of those operations, doctors' actions are always assisted by the robotic software, which those operations are performed with. And yeah, this is reality today. Now, I would not comment on how much is that being like interoperationally used, because we were discussing with Siemens. I mean, we haven't yet worked on a project with them, but recently they have achieved the data from each scan machine across the globe being centralized for access by the company. So earlier it was not the case, but now this is being achieved. So yeah, if these kind of things keep going, probably then the doctors will just sit and see what is happening and the machine will do all the operations. But as of today, what we have seen is assisted.
Right. So we'll come back to you about, your perspective on the future of this technology dimension. Going back to Mr. Safal, all these aspects of a product being trackable, testable, and, it is going to open up all everybody across in the value chain wants to protect themselves, right? I mean, I'm talking about human resistance to any kind of implementation. You talk about vision, you talk about earlier robotics or anything that is coming in. So do you see layers of resistances that are happening, right? I mean, typically from the organizations, because that actually delays and makes the implementation difficult, right?
Okay, so what's happening is at different level of hierarchy in the organization, this is perceived differently. So if I look at the central head of engineering for South Asia, then he will definitely look at it from a return on investment point of view. But if I look at the operator level who is there working on the line, he will look at it from production point of view. So what happens is if the decisions are not made uh, keeping this entire ecosystem in loop, then there could be a problems in implementation. So at times, if it is top-down implementation, we have seen that yes, there are resistances from the operator level people where they are just bypassing the systems and keep their production rolling on. But on the other side, if we look at from the organization point of view, that's taken very positively. So yes, to answer your question, there are resistances in few cases, but it all depends on how the implementation is done. So what we typically do is now we have changed our approach. We go to the entire 15 days or 3 weeks kind of implementation at a shop floor level. We generate a lot of data reports, which are getting signed from both the organizations. And then once that is done, then it is implemented. So that makes both ours as well as customers' life easy.
Right. Another perspective I would like to bring is all this automation. It also happened at the time of robotics came, and whether it is replacing humans. And I would give some notion where standards like Industry 5.0 talk about bringing humans back in the system for controls, for stability, for insights, where humans are extremely strong. They have that knowledge, they have the skill. So Industry 5.0 will definitely protect us. But on the ground, do you see there is a scare and it's about the humans losing their current work in hand? Maybe, you'll have some kind of avenues where they could be leveraged for something more intelligent than they are doing right now.
To some extent, yes. But on the larger perspective, people are definitely looking at automation as a tool to reduce the recalls, to reduce the production errors, and they also look at it from the process improvement point of view. So at times, what they do is they don't stop the line. So if something is going wrong, so what they do is, say, for example, if we look at a cigarette manufacturing plant, then there is a layer of cigarettes which flows through the entire system, which is like 50 cigarettes in a column. So what we do is we typically look at just a top layer, and then we just inspect it and then submit the data to the system. Say, for example, if that error is coming, say, 2 times in a minute, then that is acceptable to the organization. If it is coming 10 times in a minute, then we will stop the line and then they will look at the process improvement. So something like that.
Okay. And at the corporate level, whenever we bring this ROI, return on investment, the budgets are created, the business cases are made. Do you see that, it is created at the time of the decision about the purchase and eventually also gets reviewed every quarter or 6 months or 1 year, where, we look back and check where we are?
Yeah, so this we have seen that this happens at shop floor level also, and then the corporate levels also. So they make a one big plan at corporate level for the year, which is reviewed quarterly, and then for a certain quality perspective investments or certain downtime related investments, that is fast moving investments. So, but then yes, if we talk about the overall budgeting for the year, the corporates are definitely looking at it every quarter.
Now, let's get to the future dimension, right? I would also get to Alok on that. But if we close our eyes and see, for your purpose, if you look at Cognex or where all these use cases are going, where do you see future in 3, 5, 10 years as art of possible, right? I mean, you see it in sci-fi movies. What is that, are these things going to come in the way that you are seeing it from where you look at it?
If we look at it from factory automation point of view, then for India, we are definitely sitting on a golden mine. We are at a nascent stage, and 5 years down the line, I see this market growing at least double the size which it is
Wow,
currently.
super. I think any use case that you want to see, that you want to say that is not there right now and you want to see happening.
Maybe we are almost there in exploring in every market, but as Aloka said, healthcare is something which we are not at all working currently
Cool.
in India. So
But yeah,
maybe that is one of the markets that might open up for us in future once this data security is taken care of.
I think Aloka is there where he has a deep tentacles into this space. So there will be definitely areas in which you can have that brainstorming.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. I think let's go to Aloka and ask him about where do you see the future going? And I will bring that element of threat to the human being, human brain, systems becoming more intelligent and that. And critical thing like vision, and we saw in my slides example of robo playing easily and beating human being, not only in structured areas of examination like of context where ChatGPT can get data, every data that is available they can decipher and interpret, but something which is on the fly decision about how to hit the ball for tennis. I think are we as human beings to be scared about?
I would not go philosophical, but coming back to more reality, the only arguments which you can get for humans and machines and which is going to replace, I think it's just a parallel existence, and this is happening. It's not happening only today. Like IBM built a robot to beat Gary Kasparov, like for chess. When did it happen? We are talking 30 years, 20, 30 years back, right? Did people stop playing chess? No. People are playing chess today. Nobody lost interest because AI can play better. So are people playing tennis today? Would they keep playing in future? Yes. Would people go to watch robots playing or people playing? We'll still go to watch people playing, I guess. So these things are always subjective, and I think there would be a good set of say audience. So if there are 7 billion people in the world, probably a few billions will shift their way of watching things. They will prefer to have AI. If you go to a village in India, like say 10 years back, they would not know even internet, and today they know it. If you have gone to Africa, even today people don't know internet. So it's like, I think the whole generations keep shifting. The world is so different. So I do not see that in next 5, 10 years, people will be replaced in especially in the sensitive area like healthcare. So nursing practice, people are already talking about assistive nursing. So you have a robot which will remind an old age person to take medicines. Is it going to replace the carer? No. People who have money will still pay for the carer. People who do not have money probably will be shifted to this. And I think this is good, because if they do not have money, they can't afford a carer, they may be able to afford a robot. So I think this would continue and coexist at least for the next 10 years.
Wonderful. And, that's interesting. But a question, maybe a last question for this. session. But what is that you think is that you want to happen in reality in the space of vision, in the space of healthcare, in the space of all this deep learning that is happening, the neural networks. Where do you what is that one thing that you want to happen?
If you ask me right now, this space is fairly dominated by a few, just a few, you can count on fingers, companies. And this is not, this has never been the case if you see any revolution in the world. So if AI revolution has to happen, it has to cascade down to smaller companies, the SMEs. And this is really currently like stronghold by, and they are not letting it go. If you look at GPT, Microsoft kind of acquired it. GPT started as an open source. It was always designed as not for, but what happened now? They are now for profit. So this thing should ease out. And what we are building today, the privacy enhancing technology, and we are making it reach smaller companies like the likes of P&G, I would say is small in this space because they can never build themselves such a thing. But if they have to go to Google and Microsoft only to buy this, Microsoft and Google, just I keep example because they have this technology, what we are building for years. Google has since 2007. They never sold it. Why? And this is something, it's not just the capitalistic mindset, but this is also the approach. And I think this approach should change. So I wish that the everybody, even a fertility clinic in Mumbai has the ability to perform this kind of data preservation. And yeah, so that will be my wish.
So I think that brings us to the conclusion of this panel discussion. I would like to thank Mr. Safal and Aloka for contributions. As we started, we built up a context of what machine vision is. We looked at some of the very high level trends of where this space is moving. We looked at a couple of use cases, very specific in manufacturing, and we had Mr. Safal deep diving into those use cases into packaging space, where Cognex has a dominating presence for a detailed a view of what perspective that it brings and what are the ways that any kind of a larger or smaller organization can look up those products and processes to be adopted. We saw Aloka giving us a deep dive into data perspective about vision and bringing nuances of how critical it is to have the privacy, that protection that is required, even in machine vision related perspective. I think so to conclude, it's definitely a machine vision is a technology which had been existing for quite a while. It has taken different shapes. It has got very strongly integrated with tools, technologies, and solutions that we have. We have seen Cognex providing a lot of solutions which are embedded both in acquisition of data, processing of data, interpretation of data, and if you look at the future, as we discussed some use cases where we would like to see the data being available to exchange, we saw that elements of impact on healthcare or pharmaceutical becoming more and more prominent as a future as we see. If you ask me, I would like to say and conclude saying that okay, AI is going to be there. AI has been created by human being. If we look at the way that computers got their birth, we had a virus also being created by a human being. So if at all we see any risk that is coming in, it's also something that will be protected by human being, and humans will definitely be able to protect anything that is coming as use cases from AI moving forward. So with that, I would like to conclude and hand it over to Darshana, and with a big thank you for all the panelists and OEM update for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Kulkarni, for your exceptional moderation during the webinar. Insightful questions, seamless facilitation, and your ability to steer the discussion and highlight key points ensure that the session remained dynamic and valuable for everyone.